start out with the brainstem. That's the area that you didn't see down there. It's connecting us to our body and has models of connections to our organs.
I mean, don't you
And
think this would
the
simplify
part
the
on
dating
top,
process?
that's the thalamus, and the thalamus is something like the phone switchboard of our brain. It's taking in data from your eyes and from your ears and from your body surface and from parts of the brain and distributes them throughout the brain. So the brain can make sense of them. And this is the part of your brain that is responsible for generating pleasure and pain. That's the limbic system. And this is something, in some sense, measuring your needs. So there are things that your organism needs, for instance. It needs to eat, it needs to drink from time to time, it needs to rest, it needs to have connections to others, and so on. And when these things go wrong, you experience pain signals, and when they go right, you get pleasure signals. And this pleasure and pain is directing our actions. And so I built a small machine that is a model of how our emotions work. It has lots and lots of tanks for all our needs, and they're connected to each other. And we can use this to build a small AI that is exploring the world and is in some sense autonomous, that doesn't need any human input to decide what it needs to do, because it has its own needs and it gets pleasure and pain depending on what it's doing in the world. And so it's learning things to satisfy its needs and to avoid that bad things happen to it, like it gets hurt and so on. It tries to not do that. And the understanding of the world is what this thing is limited. So we understand the world much, much better than this thing does. And this image of the world, this model of the world, is generated in our neocortex. This is the large area that you see here. Most of our brain is creating this simulated world. So it's important to realize that the world that we experience, again, is not the physical world. It's a simulation. It's like a game engine. So if you imagine that you look at a game like Minecraft or World of Warcraft or any kind of computer game that has a virtual world and an avatar in it, that's something like the game engine in our own mind. And this game engine in our own mind is being formed to predict the sensory data. So there's only electrical impulses coming in from the world, like through cables from your retina, from your ears, and so on. And there's only patterns coming in there. And this game engine in your mind is tuned to predict these patterns, to make sense of them. And the program that comes up with to predict these patterns is what we experience as the world. It's this game engine that you live in. And it's all done by these guys. These are neurons. These are embryonal neurons. They haven't really connected up to each other yet. And initially, they basically like little animals, little single-celled animals that crawl around and they try to make friends and link up. And when they manage to link up in the right way, then they find sources of food and they get rewarded if they send signals at the right moment. So every neuron doesn't really know what it's doing. It's only trying to send signals at the right moment. And they're all locked up in the same skull, in the same dark room, and they have to work together. And if the brain as a whole is sending signals at the right moment, then the whole brain gets fed by the organism, right? So they have to figure out how to cooperate. And they're put into an initial configuration by evolution. So the evolution tells the neurons how to link up at first, roughly in which order, and then they figure out the details. It's like when you're born in a society. The society that you're born into is not something that has been invented in this generation. It has been an evolution of societies. For thousands of years, our societies have optimized themselves into some kind of architecture, some kind of structure. And if you're born in society, you only have to find your local place, like this individual neuron does. And then you try to make local sense of the world and interact with other people. And as a result of this interaction, something emerges that has more intelligence than the individual parts. And I think what the individual neurons are doing can maybe be best understood like a synthesizer. Some of you might know a synthesizer. It's an electronic circuit that can make sounds and music. And it works by taking a number of electronic parts together, and it can be quite a variety of parts that work for this. And they need to make oscillations that you can change. And you have a number of knobs to play around with. And each time you turn the knobs in a different direction, it makes a different sound. It's a very interesting thing to play with. You can buy one, or you can get a computer program that runs on your iPad that has a synthesizer and a simulation of a synthesizer. You can learn how to make any sound that you want if you figure out how to turn the knobs. And if you take a random arrangement of neurons and throw them together, and you see these individual neurons as knobs, so to speak, so you can stimulate them, you can activate them a little bit, the brain can learn how to get a collection of neurons to produce arbitrary patterns like sounds. and it can produce patterns to predict sensory data. It can predict these patterns that come in from your retina and from your ear and so on. And once you find a way to make a bunch of neurons produce the right oscillations, you can stack them together, and then we make oscillators from oscillators and find meta patterns on the next layer that you can organize. So you're not just making sounds, but you can also make simple melodies. And once you know how to make simple melodies, you can build the next layer, and you can make them produce pieces of music, like a piece of dance music and so on. And if you look at the patterns between all the pieces of dance music, you understand the entire genre, and then you can make a pattern maker that understands types of music and can make new types of music maybe. Right, so this is in a way, I think, how it works. It's stacking things. So what you see here, intersection where sound and vision are exactly the same. It's basically, you can see that it's a visual pattern, right? And the visual pattern is a two-dimensional projection of the sound. A three-dimensional projection if you take the time regard. So it's sound that is exactly the same as what you can see. And somebody made an entire album with this kind of oscillator music that has an identity between the images and the sound. And they have two sensory modalities here at play. The visual system that is trying to find patterns in what you see, and the acoustic modality which tries to find patterns in what you hear. And as you can see, they are here the same. Normally it doesn't really work like this because the patterns that you can recognize in your vision are too different and work at different time scales and different dimensions than the patterns that you can discover in sound. They only meet at a much later point where you can normally where sound and vision meet is when you are looking at three-dimensional objects that make noises, right? So you can look around in the space and you see that the same things that make sounds also look in a particular way. This is where they normally meet. And here they found a way to merge these modalities much further. Very interesting experiment. But more real sounds are much more complicated than the ones that you can hear in language. Some people can use these sounds only to test the ability to see sounds, or also to test the visual qualities of the numbers and so on. It's called synesthesia. Then you can get conscious access of how sound is made in the brain. So, for instance, some artist made this. He was a synesthete, and he